I remember interviewing tonight's guest a while ago, and she was answering my question, and I was thinking, how does she not have a deal with Mac or Revlon? And then I said it out loud, which was kind of weird, but not surprised to learn that Lzzy Hale, frontwoman for Halestorm, has transitioned to hosting on television. Grateful to welcome Lzzy to Loudwire Nights this evening. Thank you for your time, madame. How are you? How is RJ and the band doing during these trying times, as they say?
Oh, Toni, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, the band's doing great. I mean, considering the state of the world and the uncertain future, but we're doing good. We're writing and everybody's happy and healthy. So I can't complain on that end. We're very lucky.
Very glad to hear it. Before we get into the actual show details, I'm curious, have you always wanted to be on TV? Like, do you have an agent? Do you go on castings? How did this opportunity come to you?
I think just from being in the music business, I think there are so many different branches of that tree that I've always been interested in. And from an early age, I think part of the appeal of being in the music business is there was all of these other outlets that it would kind of lead on to. So, I mean, for example, like the first time I got to be in a music video, you could be an actor without actually being an actor. And when you go on stage with your outfits or whatever, you're able to be a model without actually being a model. And so I think all of those things that I did early on more or less prepared me for new adventures. And I began the habit of saying yes to adventure and diving headfirst before I can talk myself out of anything. So that's been it's been a wild ride, and I'm just so incredibly excited about making this TV hosting debut with Access TV on A Year in Music. It was one of those things that I think that in the back of my mind, I always thought that I could do, but I was not sure if that opportunity would actually happen. To answer some of your beginning questions, I've read for scripts before. I do have a loose acting agent just in case things come up. But this is this is my maiden voyage, and I'm just so incredibly excited. I'm also nervous, for everybody to watch it. And it's also debuting on October 4th, which is my dad's birthday. And so he's really stoked about that because he thinks that we did that on purpose.
I love it. Yeah, let's talk about A Year in Music. Congratulations. So excited. Of course, hosted by yourself. Premieres this Sunday on Access TV. What is the show about, and what do you bring to the table as a hostess?
Well, really, A Year in Music is a rock and culture series, and it covers so many different things. It's literally everything from politics to popular culture, and ultimately how music has helped shape all of that. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of because music is that universal language, and it affects everything and influences everything. And it's not just a form of entertainment. In each year that we go through in this series, you can literally see the evolution of human thought and human invention. And like I said, and with politics and everything else, you can see that happening throughout the years as each episode goes by. And so it was really amazing for me to be a part of because, as much as I absolutely am immersed in the music business and I love all things music, I learned so much, just from being a part of this team, and the research team is amazing. And then also they ended up letting me really take the reins with a lot of these scripts and just put my stamp on it and insert myself into some things that I believe in and some things that I lived through as well. So it was just such a beautiful experience. And honestly, if anybody is into music trivia, definitely watch this show because you will win every music trivia game that your friends end up forcing you into. So it's very informative for that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of information. I watched the first episode. So there's going to be 12 total. That has to be kind of a challenge because how do you pick what year you want to highlight?
Well, honestly, thankfully, the team is much more well-versed in how they want to roll out some of these episodes. I did them in all sorts of order, and the team was just amazing. We did everything super safe. It was a very minimal team for, shooting and all of that. Obviously, considering the times and COVID, all of that had to be addressed. But it's awesome because, we go into all of these years that anybody that knows anything about me, I was a child of the 90s, but I was obsessed with 80s music. So I really got to kind of explore, everything from 1989 to then when I was a child in 93 and then 98, which was, really like one of our first big years of starting the band Halestorm. So I was able to almost relive, or at least technically, okay, so I was born in 83, so 89, I don't have a whole lot of experience in life with, but, I was able to really like look back on the times that helped honestly shaped who I am and the influences that I had. And so it was just, like I said, it was just such a beautiful thing.
Which has been your favorite episode to shoot? Is there maybe like a particular artist you really enjoyed highlighting or you connected to that year as you kind of touched on earlier?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we discuss all sorts of, of my influences from Alice Cooper and Hart. And honestly, like one of my favorite episodes to record was actually the 1998 because this was such a weird time for me in my life. I was just starting a band. We started in 1997 as Halestorm, and 1998 we were playing like Sam Goody's Mall and coffee houses for for like free pizza and that kind of stuff. And so when we're going through everything that happened in those years, and specifically for 98, I'm thinking back on remembering all of these things happening and hearing things on the radio and hearing even artists that I wasn't necessarily interested in, like Britney Spears or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was still a part of that. Like I remember specifically playing a mall gig with my little brother and Britney Spears having her cardboard cutout there because she was debuting her first album. And so I remember all of that happening. And then of course, let history take over and it is what it is, but it's just, it's such a great thing to be a part of. And then also one of my favorite episodes is 1989 as well, because I love so many of those artists and I didn't really in person because I was so young get to live through that as a conscious adult. So it's almost like me going back in time.
Were you nervous when you shot the first one?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? So I keep referring to it as this kind of beautiful panic because there's a difference between knowing that you're capable of doing your best and doing something and then it actually getting down to the wire, where I remember riding to the first shoot and like 10 minutes before we walked through the door, I'm like, oh God, what if I suck at this? Like what have I gotten myself into? Right. And then I walked in the door and literally, the entire team was so incredibly nice and so awesome. And I learned so much through making that first episode that every single episode that we ended up doing later, I got better and better at it and more comfortable in my skin. And it was almost like, I don't know, it's like in the first 10 minutes, you just feel this weight come off. You're like, all right, it's all good. I got this. I'm here for a reason. And then they hired me for a reason. So, or they took me on for a reason. Yeah. It was amazing too, because some of what I realized about myself in this whole process is that my inspiration, which I never really thought about, what would my inspiration as a TV host would be, because I have all of my inspirations for music and why I'm a musician. But I found myself, especially after watching some of these episodes as they came back, is that I'm pulling from all of the things that I grew up with, like the VH1 and MTV hosts. And also there's a little Access Hollywood and Extra in there because I can't help it. And I'm a cheeseball, Yes. So I love that this team was so incredibly gracious to accept me for everything that I am. And like I said, I got a lot of creative freedom. And so it was just such a neat experience. I'm so happy that people are going to be able to watch it, and it's almost like releasing an album. I'm waiting for October 4th. Okay, here we go. People are going to be talking about it. So I'm excited.
It's very cool that you get to write and learn more. To me, that's the perfect combination because it's got your spin, but you're also picking up some stuff along the way. We talked about tidbits, bar trivia. What's the one thing you learned that you are going to be taking to a bar and someone will be, well, not after this airs, but someone may have possibly have been buying you a shot because you knew this and nobody else knew this and you learned it on this show, A Year in Music?
Okay, and this is just honestly, this is Hollywood gossip.
Oh,
but
yeah,
one of the things that I never knew was that around the same time that Gwen Stefani was dating Gavin Rossdale, at the same time, Gavin was also dating Courtney Love. So the guy, yeah, I mean, not that we all didn't know that he was kind of like a playboy.
Yeah, a little bit.
It confirmed it. But a lot of those little things along the way, and there was a lot of, history, and it was just such an interesting thing to be a part of, because the beautiful thing about this show is that it's not just about the music. The music is the common thread, but you're talking about the year 2001. We're talking about the Twin Towers. We're talking about how all of these musicians gathered together to help make everything right. And it gives me such hope, honestly, for whatever comes next in the current situation that we're in, because I have the unique opportunity to look back on all of these years and so many different things that happen, and whether it was politically or climate-wise or natural disaster or whatever it was, and we as humans have always risen above all of these things, and music was a huge part in bringing all of that together. So by looking back on a year in music on this series, I feel like it's going to give a lot of people hope for the future.
Touching on something you just said, the Hollywood gossip kind of aspect of it. As a musician yourself, how do you feel about touching on the areas of an artist's life? Like, for example, 1989, episode 1, Michael Jackson, one of the many artists you get into, people were calling him, Wacko Jacko, amongst other things. You mentioned some of those rumors and tabloid fodder surrounding him. Like, is it weird for you to touch on that stuff because you've been on the other side of it?
It is strange to touch on some of those subjects, but honestly, I also understand, because there are a lot of things from being on that other side that I've had to deal with in my corner of the world. And so I sympathize a lot with it. I also understand that is a part of it. And what I liked about that specific episode was that he ended up basically retaliating to the press with a music video and kind of having the last word, because he's the one with the microphone. And I think what people need to understand about Hollywood gossip and weird kind of almost tabloidy type things is that that's all it is. It's entertainment. It is either fact or fiction, and nobody really knows but the actual person and the actual the artist or whoever they're talking about. In a personal aspect, I've always believed that my story is my own. And I don't necessarily pay any mind to people's opinions of me either way. Like, you can absolutely think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's fine. You can absolutely hate my guts, and that's fine too. But ultimately, all that really matters is what I think of myself. And so I feel like in a lot of ways, by combing through, some of these situations, I think it's important to bring it up. And that's why I think it was important for the people from Access TV and A Year in Music to include those things in the script, because I think that it's still a part of the bigger story. Is it the be-all, end-all of the story? Absolutely not. Nobody will ever know except for Michael Jackson, everything that went on with Michael Jackson, But it's important to see all of those different sides in order to, come to your own conclusions. So.
Love it.
So I absolutely didn't mind doing that at all.
You're such a natural. You're going to kill it. Of course, people are going to love it. I have to ask you a couple of Halestorm questions or I'm going to get slaughtered. We have a couple minutes here left. So let me sneak a couple of those in if that's okay with you. Thank you. I read that you've been working on the follow-up to Vicious. You said that you have a lot finished and that you're taking risks. What can you tell us about what's inspiring you in 2020 that's making its way into the new music?
In a word, everything. I think that not only the state of humanity right now, not only the politics and everything, all of the changes going on, not just the pandemic, not just the longing, for human interaction the way we were used to having it done, not just this empty hole that used to be my touring life that literally cannot be filled with anything else. I've tried. I've tried everything. It can't be replaced. Just FYI. But I think a lot of these things end up seeping into my core and what I have begun doing again. Not that I was never writing from my truth. I've always written from a core element of my personal truth. But by being literally in my home studio every single day we're not in a professional studio yet. A lot of the things that I'm able to do in my studio, I will be able to keep once we start actually recording if need be. But by being here and just doing everything purely for me, because there is no timeline. There's no timeline for when the record is going to be done. There's no timeline for, even if the record was done, when are we going to tour on it? What are we going to put out to radio? There's none of those things right now rolling around in my head that usually kind of are, whether I like to push them away or not. They usually are. So now it's kind of definitive that all I can do is write from my place of joy and my place of truth and my core and how I'm feeling. And luckily I have some amazing allies, some amazing boys in my band that somehow trust me with words. Not quite sure why, but it's been this amazing almost relay sport. I've been writing so much lately, and I just keep passing it off to my boys and give their opinions or help me raise it, so to speak. But I'm really excited because I feel like I've almost gone back to when I was a teenager. Like, speaking of looping back around to 1998, a year in music for Lzzy Hale. But I remember, literally that was such a freeing time because I didn't know anything about the business. My parents had no context to the business. We, didn't have any means to actually figure that out. So all I was doing was writing from whatever was in my head and my place of truth. So bottom line is that that's where I'm at right now. And I'm really excited because, I do have the freedom to take those risks, and I do have the freedom to write about whatever the hell I want to write about. Yes, and it's exciting,
We'll wrap on this one. Collaborating with other musicians, Nothing New for You, We Will Rock You by In This Moment, Use My Voice by Evanescence, Talk to Me, Apocalyptica, just to name some of the latest. I'm wondering if you have a favorite. Because Song of Woman by The Who featuring Lzzy Hale is one of the most beautiful and unique things I have ever heard in my life. Do you have a favorite?
Thank you. Actually, to be completely honest, that one absolutely takes the number one spot for me. And not only was it such a beautiful experience, but it was so different because usually with my collaborations, there's either an existing song or somebody's like what I did with Amy Lee, where we would bring back an old one, or maybe it was one of her songs, or Shatter Me was literally made for that. But this specific song was an existing song in Mongolian that basically instead of me just translating everything to English, what they ended up asking me to do was, here's what the song is about. They gave me a basic rundown. And they said, think about our voices like they're instruments, not like it's a duet, not like you're going to just do our song, the way that we have it. We want you to write your own song on that bed of music. And so I did, and I wrote a completely different song on top of their existing song. And so it was such a brilliant way to go about this, something I had never been involved with before. And what a weird ask. But by coming from that space and these two totally, different corners of the world, but coming together on this common thread that women are awesome, something that we could both relate to. Yes. It just came out so beautifully. And I remember I spent about 3 days writing it, and I finally got a demo together and I sent it in to everybody, and I was so nervous, and I showed it to my guys in my band, and my bass player's wife was crying because of it. I'm like, okay, well, I guess there's something to this. It's amazing. And they got back to me and said it was perfect. So it's just one of those things that I feel like I look back on it and I almost feel like, yes, I was writing it, but it was almost like one of those rare opportunities that we had just met somewhere and the universe was just kind of living through me. And so, I don't know if I'll ever get that opportunity again, for that magic to happen. So It's definitely, that's one of my number ones.
It is. Magic is the perfect word for it. Song of Woman by The Who. Give it a Google. All right. So A Year in Music, hosted by Lzzy Hale, premieres this Sunday. Happy birthday, Mr. Hale. I hope you have an amazing birthday. We will keep our ears open for the latest on the follow-up to Vicious. And I should note that there is a new reimagined EP by Halestorm, which was released in August. Lzzy, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure.
No, thank you, Toni, so much for talking with me. You were delightful, and I can't wait to embrace you on the other side of all this.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.